We're rolling back the years here at GPFans to take a look back at one of the greatest races in Formula 1 history, the 2012 Brazilian Grand Prix. Two of the greats in modern day history, Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel, going toe-to-toe for a world championship and the thrills and spills that come with the Interlagos circuit. But before we get into it, and if you want to stay up to date with everything in the past, the present and the future in Formula 1, just hit the subscribe button down below to keep abreast of all the content we make here at GPFans. But now let's take a look back at Brazil 2012. November 25th, 2012, the Brazilian Grand Prix at the always impressive Autódromo José Carlos Pase. The circuit in Sao Paulo is one of the most legendary tracks in motorsport. The Brazilian Grand Prix has been held here since 1973, and many iconic moments have taken place on this track since then. The circuit was named in 1985 after the Brazilian Carlos Pase, who won his first and only Formula 1 victory on this track in 1975 before sadly dying in a plane crash in 1977. As has often been the case in the illustrious history of Formula 1, a title fight was fought in beautiful Sao Paulo. Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso both arrived with high hopes for the Drivers' World Championship, although the flag hung just a little higher for the German in the standings. Alonso arrived in Brazil with 260 points, 13 fewer than his German title rival. So something special certainly had to happen if Alonso wanted to give Ferrari its first world title since 2007. Qualification. In qualifying on Saturday, it turned out to be the McLarens who had the best of things. Lewis Hamilton was able to get pole position in his final race for the constructor. He was flanked on the front row by his teammate Jenson Button. Alonso had a dramatic Saturday afternoon in Sao Paulo. The Spaniard could get no higher than 8th on the grid. And with that, Red Bull slowly started to prepare the victory party. Vettel did what he had to do and qualified neatly ahead of his Spanish rival in 4th place. Pastor Maldonado received a 3rd reprimand for the season for missing a weigh-in, which moved Alonso up a spot towards 7th place after Maldonado's penalty. The dream start for the Spaniard. While a 3rd world title for the man from Oviedo seemed further away than ever before, the opening lap couldn't have gone much better than it did for the Ferrari camp. While Alonso managed to get through the first corners cleanly at Interlagos, it was Vettel who suddenly found himself on the track and looking in the wrong direction. The then two-time world champion came to a collision with the front of Bruno Senna's car going into turn 3. What followed was a horror show for the German. He managed to keep the car running with a little bit of luck, but it was unlikely that he'd be able to drive on without causing significant damage. After recovering from the shock though, Vettel was able to continue his race, but one thing was certain: this was a huge mountain to climb for the German. Pressure on Alonso. The race became an absolute nail-biter for everybody involved in the title fight. It already had been, but the ante was upped even more. Alonso soon managed to overtake Vettel's teammate Mark Webber and his own teammate Felipe Massa in a wonderful move, allowing him to chase for a podium position. Moments later, the Spaniard shot straight ahead when entering the Senna S's on a damp Interlagos track. Hamilton also had a hard time finding grip, and he was passed by his teammate Button. The fight up front was impressive. Almost everybody was having trouble staying on or within the white lines of the track, and it was very close together. It was indeed Nico Hülkenberg who actually ended up flying around in his Force India. The German overtook Button and took the lead of the race. Meanwhile, the two McLarens continued to fight, and it was Alonso that was driving on the edge. After all, he needed the best possible finish to keep Vettel at bay, who was hunting his way through the midfield of the pack. The Spaniard could smell the title. Moments later, the pressure on Hülkenberg became too much. With an approaching Hamilton on his rear, he briefly lost grip of his Force India and ended up crashing into the side of the McLaren. It meant the end of the race for Hamilton and serious damage for Hülkenberg, and as a result of which, Alonso suddenly gained 2 positions and a world championship suddenly seemed within reach. A moment later, it was gone as he lost control of his Ferrari at the release of the Senna S's. Still, there was a masterclass taking place from Vettel, who managed to storm forward with his lightning-fast Red Bull in treacherous conditions. The German took down fellow countryman Michael Schumacher, and in P6, the title was his if Alonso didn't win the race. In the end, the championship finished in somewhat of an anticlimax. Paul di Resta lost his Force India and parked it into the wall on lap 70, bringing the safety car out onto track and ultimately preventing the race from resuming at normal speed. That could have happened at another time in Formula 1, but then there was controversy. I wonder where you're thinking. After the fright of his life, Vettel was crowned world champion for a third straight year, but my goodness, it took everything the German had to get the job done at Interlagos. We'll bring you more of the great races from Formula 1 here on the YouTube channel. Would love to know your thoughts in the comments section about where this ranks in the all-time finishes to a driver's world championship. And finishing behind a safety car, I'm sure there are some people that want to comment on that as well. Remember, of course, to hit the subscribe button and stay up to date with all that we do here at GPFans.